What makes you so different from the enemy is your healing. He is never going to be healed. Lucifer is pissed with himself still today that he said, I want to be like the Most High, and he got kicked out of heaven because he can't never return.
Yeah.
And he took a fourth of angels with him. So he's always recruiting. He's always looking. He always want more because he ain't mad with God. He's mad with himself. He was made right there in his likeness, the most beautiful cherubim there was. So we got to decide whose side of Dunamis you're going to operate on. Who am I as the woman? I am radical, relentless, and real because I am on a mission to heal the souls of God's people. I am a spiritual leader, a life coach, and an author. But most of all, I am a warrior fighting for my legacy. I face so many challenges, shares of betrayal, rejection, abandonment, all that left me wounded mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Yes, life left me broke, busted, and disgusted. But despite all those odds, divorces, emotional damage, as well as despair, I did the work to heal my soul so that I may birth forth miracles and live prosperously. I am not new here. I grew here, and now is your time to grow. I am Dr. Dunamis Dee, and I am here to guide you on your journey of healing and transformation.
Well, we have finally come to the end of season 5 of the Healing for My Soul podcast.
We have come to the end of the road.
You know that's my song.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
And I can't let go. But 60 episodes. 60 episodes.
Yes. Woo!
That's a milestone. That is a milestone. And if you have been here all 60 episodes, I want you to just drop a 60 in the comments down below because you've been here this entire journey. And let some newcomers know, like, this is a lifestyle.
Yes,
okay?
healing is a lifestyle.
Yes. So, we've been on a journey of, healing from the bra, what we say, the betrayal, the rejection, the abandonment in this entire series, and bringing it to you all publicly. In this last episode, we're really going to talk about how to really go from abandonment to abundance.
Because it sure will take you to abundance. It will take you to abundance. I kind of alluded to that in the last episode, but you got to go through to get to it.
Yeah.
You got to go through it to get to it.
What does that mean, though? I mean, well, let me not say what does it mean. Abundance. When you hear abundance, when you say abundance, is that just abundant lifestyle, abundant living? Like, what does that feel like?
I don't think that we realize that abundance really is a surplus. In other words, we're made to live in the overflow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like if you invest money somewhere, you're not really living off of the investment you invested. You're living off of the interest. You know what I'm saying? Your investment, your principal should always be there. You know what I'm saying? But you got so much invested in the principle of the whatever you put it in, that your interest is just going to give you a surplus. And that's how we're supposed to live spiritually, mentally, emotionally, as well as financially, as opposed to, let me just invest this and I keep dipping, I keep taking out, ain't nothing there. But that, you know what I'm saying? And you're going to get depleted off of that, and then you're going to find yourself in a worse state than you were in.
Yeah.
So abandonment will keep you where you just got to dig, and from what you put in, you got to take out, put it here, put it there, rob Peter, pay Paul. Abandonment got so many things to keep you held hostage. But what the abundance is saying you went through all of that to get to the interest. And the interest and the yield and the return that it's going to yield, you can live off of that, and you ain't got to touch what you invested.
So
that'll preach right there.
I mean, because I'm really trying to visualize the inroad of walking in the abundance through all of the abandonment. Like, I'm just trying to visualize what is that.
Well, it kind of goes back to what I was stating on the last episode. You just don't get it because you think you're supposed to have it. I mean, let's just think about it. Let's bring it from a practical standpoint. So many people are believing God for a financial blessing. So many people are believing God for a breakthrough financially. I want to keep it on money right now just to make this analogy, because that's what we're really believing for, because we need it. You know, we're in debt. You need this, you want that, and you're tired of struggling. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, until you put in the work of what Christ is requiring of you, it's not going to yield a return.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? In other words, how can he give me an abundance of money and I'm not a wise steward of what I have? You know what I'm saying? I use it based upon codependency. I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. Brother don't pay the bill. I got to go give him something. I got to rescue my family. I got to rescue that. All of that out of those abandonment, because I don't want nobody to feel no pain, and I want to overcompensate for mine. So,
I got you.
So no matter how you may believe, shout, be ordained, do whatever, it doesn't, that has nothing to do with it. You got to work the principles. You got to work the word. You got to love your enemies. You got to pray for those who despitefully use you. And that's why healing for the soul is so important. But that root of abandonment and all that stuff impedes upon that.
You know what? That's so funny, because we give. I never even recognize how we give out of our abandonment.
You get,
We love out of our abandonment. We make covenants out of our abandonment.
Abandonment issues thrives off of codependency.
And I'm thinking of one particular individual who had so many people codependent on him. And he wasn't codependent on them, but they were codependent on him because he was giving and loving and serving out of his abandonment.
And it was feeding his false sense of self.
A false sense of self.
Instead of dealing with the root of the abandonment of how mama really, really gave him over to grandmother. You know what I'm saying?
Dang, how you know all this?
It's because it's a pandemic within itself. I'm really now giving to all these people, scallywags, concubines, know, and it's hard for them to see the real deal of not just somebody else but themselves.
And I remember, I think it was the number, I want to say it was either 34 or 35, and I don't want to be intentional, maybe 35 because I'm 35, so hopefully it's me. But it was one number, and I was like, this means abundance. And there's so much abundance over your life because you have given and given and given. And I don't think that we recognize how we're walking in abundance and how abundance is also tied to who it is that God has called us to be in our future, of where we're necessarily going. But we're giving so much of ourselves and we're giving so much of things that we're blocking even stepping into the life of abundance that we really have. So if you got to strip us all the way down mentally, financially, I'm talking about really financially, just so that we can understand, like, I have to now give out of the whole place of me and not out of a hurt place of me, thinking that my money, that everything can solve everyone's problems. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so we fail to realize that healing is work that has to be done.
Hey, you all, I am here to invite you to join me for a Healing for My Soul challenge. I am challenging you to join me for a challenge. So I want you to go right there to that website, healingformysoulchallenge.com, and sign up today. I'll see you there.
Based upon what you're saying, I want you all to get this visual, but it's an analogy. I'm standing, say I just met you and I just stand before you and I don't know anything about you. And then I start prophesying to you, Ariel, I see you as a nurse. I see you taking care of people. I see you making abundance of money as you serve, as you labor, as you wipe, as you cry with the people that you're going to be in that hospital with, and they're going to be miraculously healed. And I see that. I see a RN beyond. I see a LPN beyond. And I'm just prophesying. Now, at the end of the day, do you think it's just going to come, or do you got to go to school to be that?
I got to go to school.
You got to do some work.
Yeah.
See, most people want all that. That's the abundance. They want the surplus. They want the abundance, but they don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
I could prophesy to you all day long, but ain't nobody going to hire you until you get your credentials. You ain't walking up in that hospital. It could be a gift. You could have a gift of what I'm saying, because some people operate in their profession as a gift, but you still got to go through the requirements to get to that place, to get to that surplus. And a lot of us, we just want, particularly in the body of Christ, we want the abundance, but we don't want to deal with the abandonment.
Yeah, yeah.
And he can't go against his word. We go against his word. He's not a liar. We live in a lie.
Why abandonment, though? I mean, why is abandonment one of the keys to unlock the abundance over our lives?
Because abandonment rolls with rejection, and rejection rolls with abandonment. Why do you think he sent the disciples out by twos? There's nothing that can be done without two. Does that make sense? And even three. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why he don't stand alone as a father? Why his son Jesus? Why he had to send the Holy Ghost? You know what I'm saying? All three functions, but yet they are still one. You know what I'm saying? So rejection going to bring in abandonment. Evil needs some help. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's another flip side of the coin, because I believe we feel rejection, but we don't believe we've been abandoned.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll say that to you directly. You feel the rejection, but you don't believe that you've been abandoned. And it goes back to your belief system, not your feelings.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the enemy wants to deprive us from the surplus. We're supposed to be living off of the surplus of our character, the surplus of our love, the surplus of his resurrection, the surplus of his death and his burial, the surplus.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have to work for what he wants from me. All I got to do is live in the surplus.
But you know what is so funny, because as you were talking, it made me think of a movie, but it made me think about how all three of them work together.
Wrinkle in Time.
No. It wasn't, but it was a Disney movie. You know, I love my Disney movies. But I was telling the community to watch it, or the university to watch it. And it was we were on the plane, and you didn't see me crying, but I was crying. It was The Young Woman in the Sea. And it was a true story of a woman and her power, her dunamis power that came forth. But first and foremost, she was rejected by her father. As a young kid, she wanted to swim, and her father said, no, you're never going to swim. A girl does not swim. You're never going to do this. Rejection over and over and over again. And she fought and she fought. And then it was a competition that you had to swim from one part of the sea to the other part of the sea. You know, can you just imagine what's in the sea? And miles, 12 miles, 13 miles. And so one man did not believe who was supposed to be her coach, and he betrayed her. She was doing the first competition, and he put some in her drink. Because he's like, you need to drink. And while she's out there at the sea, he puts some in her drink, and she gives up because he put something in there. So he betrays her, because as a man, I could not let you win. I could not let you be better than me. So as she redeems herself, and she's like, I'm going to go at it again, but I'm doing it this time with my father who rejected me, but he's in my corner. Reminds me of God the Father, right? I'm doing it with my sister who's cheering me on. But she got so far in the journey, and her sister and her father said, we can't go with you anymore. You got to be out here by yourself. And the coach that was coaching her, he did it. So the new coach, he said, I've been here before. But he said, but we can't go all the way.
For you got to do it.
And
for
it was
yourself.
at one point dark. Can you just imagine, in the middle of the sea, pitch black, and she just gave up. And she said, I feel abandoned.
I feel abandoned.
It was like, I'm out here all by myself.
But that's how you tap into the surplus.
She had to tap into the surplus, because it was at a point of the sea where they said, this is the point where it takes you under. And so she just was turning and turning and turning. And finally she turned around and saw a fire. And all the people in her village, all the people were there waiting on her. And she swam and swam and swam and swam and swam. And the abundance of overflow of the welcome and everything. I feel bad. I'm telling the movie, but
analogy.
It was the most beautiful thing, because it wasn't the rejection, it wasn't the betrayal, but she had to get through that whole of that abandonment.
And that's how you tap into your dunamis, the power of God,
Yes.
the ability. But we as our own selves, we have ability. But I gotta go through my rejection. I gotta go through my betrayal. And I got to go through my own feeling of abandonment, believing and knowing that I'm not abandoned, but I got to tap into that power.
Yeah.
That's not my ability no more.
Yeah.
That's not my strength no more. That's the miraculous power that is in me, but I got to go through all that to even tap to it.
Yeah.
Many people want to tap into that power. Many women want to tap into that power, but they don't want to go through the process. And so it takes you there. That's a great analogy. I got to watch that movie.
Yeah, it was
What was
beautiful.
the name of it? Tell them.
A Young Woman in the Sea.
And
True story. I mean, she just passed away. True story. Trudy Ederle, I believe that's her name. But true story of a woman who went beyond the obstacles. And I think the beautiful part about, what I got out of that is because, abandonment makes you feel like you're so alone. And I firmly believe that, yeah, you can heal from betrayal. Yeah, you can heal from rejection. But when you know that you can get yourself out of that place of abandonment, it shows you really what you're made of. It shows you your power. It shows you who you come from. And to me, that's just like, I think we don't equate healing to, we want to no longer feel the pain, but we don't equate healing to really walking in the promises of what God has for us.
And the power of God. And the power.
And the power.
But that's the underlying factor of healing. In order to get there, you all have to remember, dunamis, it does mean a miracle itself, and it's the power, the strength, the miraculous power, strength, ability of force. But you also have to understand, Satan has dunamis. This is why I said I give you power over all the power of the enemy. Your enemy has dunamis. So he wants you to always tap into his side of dunamis. That means operate out of the surplus of your pain. Operate out of the surplus of your damages. Operate out of the surplus of your lack of character. Does that make sense? And I'm reminded of Mark 12:34 when Jesus was saying, "O ye generation of vipers." You know what I'm saying? That means you're a generation of poisonous snakes. You know, that's what vipers mean. You got poison inside of you because you have been, the serpent affected you all the way in the garden of what Albany was talking about. He affected you, and you still carrying that same poison. I came to free you. I came to heal you from that poison. And then it talks about that you are now speaking out of the abundance of your heart, out of the surplus of your heart. So all that poison is calling you to call people names. All that poison is calling you to say you are no good this. All that poison. Now on the flip side of the coin, you're talking about Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to your soul, you're operating in the surplus of your pain. And God said, I want you to operate in the surplus of your power.
Yeah.
Out of your healing.
Yeah.
Because Satan got your enemy got that power too.
Hey, are you listening to this episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? Well, guess what we want you to do? We want you to leave a review. Comment down below. Tell us how you are liking it. Share. Give us all the stars for this podcast because we want so many women to know that this is the podcast for them. So don't be afraid. Give us the real deal and leave us a review, and then continue to keep watching your episode.
What makes you so different from the enemy is your healing. He is never going to be healed. Lucifer is pissed with himself still today that he said, I want to be like the Most High, and he got kicked out of heaven because he can't never return.
Yeah.
And he took a fourth of angels with him. So he's always recruiting. He's always looking. He always want more because he ain't mad with God. He's mad with himself. He was made. Right there in his likeness, the most beautiful cherubim there was. So we got to decide whose side of dunamis you're going to operate on. But I know that Christ wants me to be healed so he can give me a surplus.
Yeah.
That means, Devetta, I don't care how much I give you, you're not going to operate out of nothing but your essential character. I know that even when somebody talk about you, you're not going to talk about them. You're not going to render evil for evil. That's abundance. So now I can trust you with more. I can give you more. I can be more to you because I am his executor on earth. I am his agent on earth. I am his administrator on earth.
That's why I said earlier the enemy is scared as hell
He is threatened.
of a healed woman.
Of a healed woman. He don't know what to do with you.
No.
He can't do nothing with you, but try to mess with you. But at the end of the day, it won't work.
Yeah.
He can. This is why even David said, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but he delivers me out of them all. Don't get stuck on the affliction. Get healed so you can get delivered. You can't be delivered and not healed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you can, but at the end of the day, if you're not healed, it's going to take you right back. That's why
Yeah.
recidivism.
Yeah. And that's it just goes to show, I could just think of so many, people in our lives, other prominent figures that now that I'm hearing you, who have really used their abandonment to really leverage, of where they are now, and to be able to tap into that. And you're no different. Listen to this, that there's a power deep down on the inside of you, and that like you said, we have to do the work. But at the end of the day, how do we leverage the things that have taken place for our greater gain? How do we leverage it for where God is really trying to take us? And I don't think that we recognize our own strength of the power that we really have.
One of the roots, it's many roots to abandonment, but one of the issues and the roots of it is manipulation. Mm-hmm. And I can sound good, but I can be manipulative I could preach and be manipulative and people don't even know it, but he knows it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So people can respond to my manipulation, but it's really coming out of my roots of abandonment. This is why healing is so important, because healing helps me to hear not just what a man is saying, but most of all what the Spirit is saying and what I need to hear for myself. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the manipulation is still part of deception. You know, you could be very clever when you're operating out of your roots of abandonment. This is why even before you get to the surplus, somebody can rob you. Somebody can take away from you. You know what I'm saying? I know a young lady that I was coaching, you know, and out of her roots of abandonment, hell, she signed for a man to co-sign for him a car. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't pay for it. So now what did that do? It was a robber and a thief that you can't even operate out of your surplus, because you can't even get to the point of knowing how to make decisions, because he's steadily coming for what you got coming in. Mm-hmm, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's nobody's fault. It's just the fact roots of abandonment have many clever ways that can suck you in if you're not pursuing your own healing. One of the biggest things of codependent people is hard to say no. And no is a complete sentence. Your feelings may be hurt. It's okay. But I ain't going to be hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You may be pissed. It's okay. I ain't pissed. Because no is a complete sentence. And the root of abandonment very strongly is codependent. How can God give you a surplus and an abundance when you're just going to give it to the dogs?
Yeah, that is so true.
People who are not pursuing healing to pacify their pain, pacify their issues, pacify their struggles, make them feel good at your own expense. How can he trust us with the surplus of abundant life, abundant finances, abundant living, and you're just going to keep covering up people's pain, playing Savior and Lord, and that's not who you are. I thank God for my healing, because I did some of that as well.
Yeah. I think that is an epidemic in the body of Christ and just in general, and women. Mm-hmm. I think I don't know. I think I just love the word no so much, but I've learned to see so many women who just always are like giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, and I don't think that I don't think they even recognize, or most people, even myself sometimes, that it's a blockage.
Well, you know, you grow to a point. I had to first start learning how to say no without an explanation. Mm-hmm. Because you could still say no, like, no, I can't take you to the store because I got to take mama to the hospital. I mean, you could think of a whole lot of justifiable reasons to say no, but that's a good start. You know what I'm saying? And then you will grow as you grow into your healing to get to the surplus of what God has for you, because you got to be proven. You got to be trusted that you would just say no, and it doesn't have to be a harsh no, because you're confident that this is not for you. You know, yet they asked you. You know what I mean? Then you will grow to a point where those people will not even ask you anymore. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So now you got to a whole nother regime of people that think that they can break you and change you, and they do it very subtly through manipulative behaviors. And those come through the people that sees the motive of why they want you in their life. And I don't have time to think about that. I don't have time to reason with that, because at the end of the day, I could be trusted with that because I have a standard now for my life. I have a standard that I don't co-sign. It's just a standard. It don't matter. You know, 2 years ago, you know, my husband had an accident, and things just began to diminish because he couldn't go back to work. And, you know, he had things that he signed for and he did prior to and even in the midst of it when we first got married. And my standard is I don't share cars. Kind of made him upset because it brought back some of his triggers of abandonment from old relationships. But my standard is I don't share cars. Does that make sense? Whatever is your responsibility, you have to handle that. Now, did I say you can never drive it? No, but I don't share. Ariel, can you believe it's almost 2025?
It is. And I am so excited because we got something.
It's time to get alive at our event.
Yes, the Healing for My Soul Live.
Yes.
I mean, can you just imagine all the things that you're learning on this podcast and what this will be if we're all in one room, like live, in person, experience healing?
So we want to admonish you all to come. Get with us live because it's going to be explosive. Ariel, give them the details.
Yes, well, you can learn all the details while you watch this episode. Go to www.healingformysoullive.com and get registered to come meet with us in person to experience a healing that you will never, ever, ever forget. One thing about being online, but it's a whole other thing when you're in person. So get registered and get back to this episode.
I am too seasoned to try to pull my stuff out, put your stuff in. Can I go here? You drop me off. When I got to move, I got to move. It ain't nothing wrong with it. That's just my standard. So I don't have to say no. You know what I'm saying? It's the fact that I have a standard in my mind that I don't change because that's the standard that I created a long time ago. I never shared a car with you all. You've never driven my car. I don't give kids my car to drive. You're not going to take my keys and you just go and drive it because you want to go somewhere.
And
that
even
was
that's
my
out
standard.
of an abandonment.
That was my standard.
But I was saying even some mothers do that out of abandonment.
Out of abandonment.
Because I didn't have the opportunity, because I didn't have this. Well, now you can go and you can take my car wherever. You can do this, trying to please, trying to make sure that everything is good, trying to make sure.
And healing has caused me to be able to know how to create my standards, and not only that, but live by it. So I don't have to say no more. I don't have to do this. You just know my standard. You know what I'm saying? Allison wanted this young man to drive her car. He jacked it up. My standard was my standard. You won't get mine. So when she went to work, she had to walk from the train and back. My standard is my standard. Was it 12 o'clock at midnight? Sure. But my standard is my standard. Taught me how to pray even more, but my standard was you're not driving my car, particularly when you let somebody drive yours, because you should have had a standard. You should have learned how to say no. But abandonment will make you yield. It'll make you give your something. It'll make you give your last to your own expense. And I had to let her go through that process. Whatever that is, I had to let you go through your process. But at the end of the day, and you tell me, Ma, no, you can't drive my car. That's your standard. I respect that.
Because you.
That's right. That's okay.
But it does allow everyone to live.
And I don't even ask because I know it's your standard.
Because, and that's what I'm saying. It allows everyone to be able to live in a way in their own abundance. You know what I'm saying?
That's my surplus.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if something let me tell you something. If something go wrong, it's going to come back to my name. So it's not that that's just my standard. My standard is the fact that he could trust me with the surplus because if something happened, oops, here's your car. There's more responsibility on me. You should have had a standard for your life and live by it to the point where, you know what, it may be hard to say, but I gotta implement it. And it's nothing wrong with you. It's nothing wrong with me. It's just who I am because God says the surplus that I give you is not for you to be rescuing people. The surplus I give you is not for you to be fraudulent. If you was to, do you want to invest some money in somebody who don't know how to properly plan and spend it? If you was to ask me for $5, I probably would give it to you because it's nothing too much. But more on me, I would ask you what you want it for. But I know I would ask you, if you say, Ma, can I have $25,000? I will say, why and what's your plan to do with it? That's the surplus.
Yeah.
Because if you say you want to invest it and you show me a business plan and you show me this or whatever, what's the plan? You want the surplus, but God wants the plan.
Yeah. That's so profound because just listening to you is just how we administer ourselves to so many people out of a place of that pain and not a place of wholeness. And we think that we're really helping. We think that we are really getting people to the next level of their abundance and the next level of their surplus, and we're really hurting them in so many aspects because we're not looking at the root of how we're giving. We're not looking at the root of where it's flowing from. And I think that that's the thing is like it's not just about giving, but where is it flowing from out of you? Is it flowing out of your abandonment? Is it flowing out of your rejection? Is it flowing out of your codependency? Is it flowing? And all of it can just add up.
And when I'm healed, it causes me to see myself, as we talked about on so many episodes. But now my codependency is not where I am playing the rescuer. You know, my root of abandonment had to be dealt with, not because, just my father abandoned me, but he was an alcoholic. And as his daughter, I was impacted by his alcoholism. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now the root come in even greater, because now I felt like I had to rescue everybody. I felt like I had to be their scapegoat. I felt like, why? Because that abandonment, only because of the alcoholism, caused him not to never be there even the more. And then I'm sitting in rehab with him as a child, yearning for the father, but he don't know how to be who he is to me as a father. So now I'm looking for it, and now I feel good about me because I'm helping everybody else at my own expense. I have helped so many people, down payments on houses, giving them my last, and I'm thinking I'm doing a good deed for the Lord.
Yeah.
I am being depleted and washed out. But when I pursued my healing, I didn't even go because of all that. I went because I couldn't take nothing no more, and I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
I was emotionally abandoned myself. I was emotionally depleting myself.
Yeah.
Nobody didn't abandon me. I was abandoning me.
Yeah.
So he had to reveal all these things to me, and I had to go through my own therapeutic processes of healing, only to get to this place where it feels so darn good that I don't have to stand up for me. I could just be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody don't like it because they can't break me.
Yeah.
Manipulation want to break you in that area. And God will send someone to even think they can, only to show them that healing really stands.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gets them right.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of so many relationships that we stay in. That's not even just romantic, just friendships, because of our abandonment. Because we're afraid of letting go. We're afraid of walking into a level of abundance. And I just think of how many friendships I let stay attached to me a little bit longer.
And people who are dealing with a strong root of abandonment issues, they become clingy. And clingy people cling to other clingy people. Does that make sense? They can't. A lot of men can't even cleave to their wife because out of their abandonment, they want them to cling to them. You know what I'm saying? So if you're clingy, know that you still got roots of abandonment. If you're self-sabotaging, know that you still got roots of abandonment. If you are a rescuer, you got to rescue and be savior and Captain Save-A-Hole for everybody. Know that you're still in roots of abandonment. If you are self-sabotaging and going to run before you even stand, you know what I'm saying? Those are roots of abandonment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what I am saying to you, God wants to give you abundance. Sit down and let's deal with the abandonment and heal so you can get to the surplus. You can get to the overflow. He can trust you with more. So what you have, he can add to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can be invested. It can be utilized for the greater gain.
Yeah.
For the greater gain of souls, for the greater gain of your legacy, for the greater gain. Many people don't even have nothing to leave their legacy but a house that they don't even know how to pay taxes on, and they will lose it before the 90 days is up. The greater gain. Because all they're going to do, you could leave them a $100,000 insurance policy. Before you know it, they done went and bought Nikes and all kind of shoes and all kind of clothes and all kind of stuff of nothing for the greater gain. The greater gain is a good woman and a good man leave an inheritance for their children and their children's children. That's the surplus.
Yeah.
That's the abundance.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you all enjoyed this final episode of season 5 of the Healing from My Soul podcast. I think this is one to go back and to watch again and again. But if you want to continue to do the work, then you got to get connected, all right? Do not sit here and not draw closer to us. Don't just sit here and say, I'm going to watch them for the comfort of my home. You better get connected, get real, and let's get serious about the healing. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your support.
Yes.
Make sure you drop a whole bunch of comments on how you love this entire season. And we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.